Hey everyone, welcome to 1.2, Summarizing Data with Measures of Center. We're going to read a couple of statements here that you've probably heard something like somewhere in your career, either as a student or just out in the world. So if you have heard like commercials or stuff like that, we've heard things like this. Americans watch an average of 4 hours of television each day. Half of the participants polled had 5 or more people living in their home. And lastly, when graduating, seniors asked how many colleges they applied to. The most frequent answer they gave was 3. So, these are all measures of center written in these statements. So what does that really mean? Well, let's look at this. Statements like these try to say what is typical, right? We don't want to look at all of the data. That would be boring. No one wants to see all of that stuff. People want to say, well, what does this mean? You take some data, what does it mean? So we say, what is typical? So we want a representative of what is typical. So this data summarizes a lot of, they summarize a lot of data with one number called a measure of center. Not measure of central, but measure of center. I know it's spelled wrong, C-E-N-T-E-R. Or measure of central tendency. The first statement uses the mean or average. Let's go back and look at that first statement. So this one right here uses the mean. And it says Americans watch an average. That's how you know they're using the mean, because they use that word average of 4 hours of television each day. The second statement uses the median or a middle value. Let's look at this one. So this one was the median. And it says half of the participants polled had 5 or more people living in their home. That means half. All right, so that's the middle number, half of them. Okay, and then we have the last statement. The third statement uses the mode or most frequent value. So this one is the mode, and it says when graduating, seniors asked how many colleges they applied to. The most. That's a really good way of knowing that it's the mode. Using the word most, frequent answer they gave was 3. Okay, so what we are going to do is let's go ahead and define these 3 terms. You might have seen them before, but let's go ahead and do that again. So mean is the sum of the data values divided by the number of data items. The result is often called the average. So if you see the word average or mean, they are the same thing. So if I say one or the other, that's what I'm talking about. So if I say average, we're talking about mean. All right, next, the median. The median says for an odd number of data items, the median is the middle value when the data values are listed in order. I'm going to underline that because that's pretty important. They're listed in order. It's not just any old way. We have to put them in order from least to greatest. All right. If there are an even number of data items, then the median is the average of the 2 middle values. All right. So what we're going to do is a quick example of this with very small numbers. So if I have 7, 8, and 9, these are in order, and my median is 8. Because it's an odd number of terms. I have 1, 2, 3. So we're looking at the first statement, an odd number of data items. We have 3 data items, so we take the middle number. All right, so this one is the one that says odd. Let's say we have even. So let's take 2, 7, 8, and 9. This one is even, right? Because I have 4 data items, all right? So when I have there an even number of data items, the median is the average of the 2 middle values. So what are my 2 middle values? 7 and 8. So I would find the average of 7 and 8, and that is going to be halfway in between them, which is 7.5. All right? So that's an example of what you do for the median. Lastly, let's look at the mode. And the mode is the data value that occurs most often. Data sets can have 2 modes, and they call that bimodal, or even more. Some data sets have no mode. All right? And these 2 data sets that we have here have no mode because there's no number that occurs more than once. And some people might say, well, 7, 8, and 9 are all the modes because they all have the same number, but because none of them occur more than once, we would say it has no mode. All right? Then, let's go ahead and talk about this next one right here. Alright, so now let's go through and let's try an example. So what we're going to do is we are going to try and find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. Alright, so you are going to go ahead and try to do that now. Okay, so let's find the mean. Well, in order to find the mean, we need to add up how many there are and divide by, or add up all of them and divide by how many there are. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. Alright, and I could just add them across, but if I do this a little smarter, it might make it a little bit easier. So if I have the 9 and the 1, I know they add to 10. If I have the 2 and this 8, they also add to 10. If I have this 6 and the 4, they add to 10. And I'm left with 8 and 3 and 4. Well, 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 8 is 15. So I've got 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 15, and I know that equals 45. So in order to find the mean, I can take 45 and divide it by how many numbers I have, which is 9. So that makes my mean equal to 5. Alright, next, let's find the median, or the middle number. I'm going to erase this because otherwise it's going to be way too much stuff going on, and I don't really want to do that. So what people like to do, and this is a very good strategy, is to take the first look, are my numbers in order? Yes, they are. So I can take 1 and the 9, I can cross them off. The 2 and the 8, cross those off. The 8 and this 3, cross them off. The 9 and the 6, cross them off. And the only thing that I have left is a 4. So I can say my median is 4. That's one method. You could also say, I know there are 9 numbers here. So that means if I go 4 and 4, I can cross out 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all gone. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can cross these out. And the only number that's left is 4 in the middle. You could also say I'm going 5 this way and circle it. Go 5 this way and circle it. And that would be my answer. Alright, the last one is the mode. Which one occurs most often? Well, I know that 4 occurs twice and 8 occurs twice. So that makes this data set bimodal, which means we have two modes, 4 and 8. There you go. That's all we have for this lesson. Hopefully that was helpful.